Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for a poetry discussion. Look, I have new videos on the channel Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays are for poetry. And this being a Monday, the poem is from Emily Dickinson. Poem in the complete poems of Emily Dickinson, the complete poetry of Emily Dickinson. It happens on page 379. It is quite quaintly number 777 in the big old book of Emily Dickinson. Number 777 because, obviously, with Emily Dickinson, we find ourselves herein with a poem of great joy, mirth, happiness, friendship, love, compassion. That's all a lie. Page 379, poem 777. The loneliness one dare not sound, and would as soon surmise, as in its grave go plumbing to ascertain the size. The loneliness whose worst alarm is lest itself should be, and perish from before itself for just a scrutiny. The horror not to be surveyed, but skirted in the dark, with consciousness suspended, and being under lock. I fear me this is loneliness, the maker of the soul, its caverns and its corridors illuminate or seal. The loneliness one dare not sound, and would as soon surmise, as in its grave go plumbing to ascertain the size. The loneliness whose worst alarm is lest itself should see, and perish from before itself for just a scrutiny. The horror not to be surveyed, but skirted in the dark, with consciousness suspended, and being under lock. I fear me this is loneliness, the maker of the soul, its caverns and its corridors illuminate or seal. No, this is not a message of hope. But I think that it is not even a message of hopelessness. It is the recognition, perhaps, that there are some switches in life that once flipped cannot be unflipped. The recognition that there are certain ideas that once they're born into the brain cannot be removed. Certain seeds which cannot be unplanted. That seed here being the seed of loneliness. But larger perhaps than loneliness, at least as far as the verbiage in this goes, is fear. The horror not to be surveyed. I fear me this. There is a lot to do here with the idea of fear, of fearing, of being fearful. Fear is a good thing. Fear is a great thing. Fear on the African savannah kept us from being dinner. Fear is good. Fear is useful. Fear is pre-recognition. By the time you recognize that lion, by God, it's too late. Fear is knowing, hey, lions like to hang out here, and I definitely heard some rustling in the bushes. That's fear. That is at the beginning of fear. Fear obviously is going to go straight through when that lion is, devouring you. But fear is reaction before knowledge. Fear starts before diagnosis. You ever get that weird pain and you think, oh, well, no, obviously it's cancer. That's fear. You know cancer is the dangerous thing. You know the lion is the dangerous thing. You understand the symptoms that might lead to a diagnosis of cancer. You understand the things which might lead to a diagnosis of, oh, yeah, this is where lions like to be. That fear is useful. That fear gets you out of the dangerous place. That fear leads you to the doctor's office where a diagnosis might be given. But here in this poem, we're dealing largely with the recognition of recognition. It is fear as forecast. We are not here warning against loneliness even. We're warning against the sphere before the inner sphere of loneliness. We're warning about the fear. We're warning about the fear. Don't even fear, okay? Don't even let yourself get to the point where you're thinking about being afraid of loneliness, because by then, look, it's all downhill. It's one great big swooping fall into oblivion. We are dealing with fear as forecast. Why? Because the speaker here seems to have an understanding of the speaker here seems to have an understanding of loneliness as terminal. The loneliness one dare not sound. The loneliness one dare not sound. What is, if you take loneliness out, what is the obvious word that fits in there? The alarm that one dare not sound. The alarm that one dare not sound. So if you're not even venturing to sound the alarm, you don't want to send the fear out. Think of a tornado siren. A tornado siren is an alarm. For those of you who don't live in the Midwest, you might not understand this. Enjoy the coast. A tornado siren is an alarm to invoke fear. I don't know if you've ever heard the tornado siren in Chicago. Just YouTube Chicago tornado siren. That is a thing of nightmares. But what we are doing here is saying, don't even sound that alarm, baby, because what if sounding that alarm necessitates the tornado? What we're doing is saying, the moment I hear the tornado alarm, my house is destroyed, tornado or not, twister or not. I think a lot of what is being expressed here is the great purchase that Emily Dickinson has on what she calls the caverns and corridors of the soul. I fear me this is loneliness, the maker of the soul. Its caverns and its corridors illuminate or seal. This seems to me to be a great diagnosis of the human experience from Emily Dickinson, of a thing from which she herself does suffer. There is a phrase from Shakespeare: he jests at scars that never felt a wound. We have no jesting here. There is nothing in jest. There is straight up, flat out recognition, straight up, flat out warning of warning. There is a straight up, flat out human experience on display here. Now, I am not a great proponent of biographical criticism. I don't care what one does or does not know about an author. I believe in the death of the author. I believe in complete separation from artist and art. But knowing anything about Emily Dickinson, I think that it is difficult to read a poem such as this and not feel a little sad. I'm not sure how many people, everyone's been here, right? Everyone's been in the throes of loneliness at some point. That's the great thing about poetry. But the knowledge that even sounding the alarm of loneliness is itself pretty dangerous. One has to feel for the speaker. And it is interesting because rarely, I think, well, that's not true. It's interesting because Emily Dickinson is one to employ a speaker within the poem. I fear me this is loneliness. I died for beauty but was scarce, because I could not stop for death. I heard a fly buzz when I died. All of these eyes, that person, that speaker, is within the world of the poem. I heard a fly buzz when I died. We never imagine the writer dying. Just the speaker. These are the words of the speaker, not the writer. Because I could not stop for death. We never imagine the writer in the company of death. Just the speaker. These obviously are more fantastical things. These obviously are poems which are a little bit more imaginary, a little bit more fantasy, a little bit more fiction. But I think it's very difficult to read this poem and not envision the speaker as the writer. And to, through your eyes, reach out with your heart to someone who was so lonely. And I think that the magic of this poem is that you transgress. Now, it is not the you that reads this poem that travels through your readership to meet that Emily Dickinson. It is you who remembers the loneliness that travels through this poem to meet Emily Dickinson. That may be mamby-pamby. That may be hippy-dippy. But I think it's true. I think that so obviously you can read this poem and feel nothing. You can read anything and feel nothing. It means you're heartless. But you can read this poem and feel nothing. However, imagining that you read this poem and feel that empathy, feel that compassion, you do not feel that compassion as the person who reads it. You feel that compassion as the person who understands it. The person who understands it is you at your loneliest. And that's a hell of a trick. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. Look, I have new videos on the channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mondays are for poetry. I also have new videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on my personal channel, a link to which can be found in the description below. It really helps me out here on the channel if you hit that like button. If you have made it this far in the video but you are not subscribed to this channel, maybe consider doing so. And I hope to see you back here for the next mamby-pamby, hippy-dippy poetry discussion.